So who is the invisible enemy? Well, we're all familiar with the invisible enemy. It's negative forces. We have a really straight answer to an incredibly substantial question. You see, that's what it is. So, basically, what it is that what we're doing as couples, people who've been living a long time together, and we've got over things. Well, what do you got to get over as a couple of a long-standing couple, you know? So if you are a long-standing couple, you have already fought the Dominion War. I'm not talking about Star Trek. I'm talking about the Dominion War, as if you got. I'll give you an example. It's people's personalities trying to find dominance over each other. So you could have a guy, for example, like a blowhard guy, like a macho schmacho guy, right? Come and start belittling his wife. Well, you do this, you don't do that, blah 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 blah. And you have the mousy girl. Woo 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 woo. Yeah, that usually don't last. It's a bad mix, man. Okay, then you got the loudmouth wife, who's like a loudmouth and a passive guy. You know what I mean? And then blah 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 blah. That usually don't last either. You got to find equity. So in other words, a lot of relationships start that way, but then they change, and they need to change because without that respect, you can't go on, Doc. It doesn't go on that way. You may think of a bad relationship. A lot of times, well, gee whiz, my parents had a bad relationship. I don't want them to end up like they were. Well, you're aware of it. That's a good step. Don't make the same mistake. So, who is the enemy? Okay, well, here it is. You pick up a knife, okay? You find the enemy, and then you cut it out like a little cancerous square. The enemy is negative forces, okay? What are negative forces? They are sickness and death. They are poverty. They are accidents. They are things unexpected that destroy the quality of your life, okay? That's what the invisible enemy is. Now, the problem is we're invisible because they're distracting. That means that me and you will be in a relationship, right? And what happens is that, our wives or our husbands or our partners, whatever it may be, we'll start eating away at each other. In other words, fighting each other, just kind of going at it with each other like every other argument. It's one thing to argue, we all argue, but it's a bad thing if it becomes habitual because it's stressful and stress hurts you. It hurts you physically, mentally, and spiritually. It really does. So you don't need that kind of stress in your life. Why is that happening? Because we forget who we are. Okay, your wife's not the enemy. Your partner's not the enemy. You're not the enemy. Okay? Who is the enemy? Who should we be arguing with? We shouldn't be arguing with ourselves. Doesn't make much sense. What we need to be doing is addressing those issues that are hindering our lives and stopping us from having a better quality of life. you know. So we'll have a big thing with, maybe there's a family problem, or you have an illness in the family, or you yourself are sick, or somebody died in the family, or someone, you just lost your job and now you're facing financial, you're facing financial woes. Okay, those things happen to all of us. They're things that we can't necessarily even avoid in life. They're almost as if we have to run that gauntlet, right? So because we have to run that gauntlet, we have a choice. Now, we could face the enemy, those negative forces alone. Okay, and if we do that, it's because we can't get along with other people. We don't want to do. We're not tolerable enough. We can't tolerate it. So we can face those enemies alone, or we could form a solid front, a unified front, true solidarity with your family and your spouse, and then make a great stand, a good stance where we can face adversity and negativity, and with our love and familial bonds, our union, all those years we've been together, we could form a unified front, and we could, really carry the flame and start to knock out and overcome those indifferent circumstances and detrimental circumstances and depreciable circumstances that really, come in and hinder our ambitions and hinder our very quality of life. Okay, we have to face the invisible enemy by making sure it's not invisible anymore. The way to do that is to be aware of it. What is the invisible enemy? What is the invisible enemy? They're negative forces. What are negative forces? Death, illness, financial loss, accidents, problems your children have that affect you. Problems that have been thrust upon you from the outside environment. All those negative forces, if they hinder the quality of your life, that's the enemy. So I'm not the enemy. You're not the enemy. Your wife's not the enemy. Your partner's not the enemy. You're not the enemy. The enemy is the so-called invisible enemy. Why is it invisible? Because we get distracted. We forget who the enemy is, and then we start attacking each other. And here we are, fighting each other, arguing, making habitual arguments, hurting each other, being spiteful to each other, while the devil's laughing in a corner. While all these other horrible things are happening around us. Okay, does that sound like a triumph? Does that sound like a winning family? It's not. So we got to be aware. We be aware of it, form a unified front, go out there and try to, really, try to ascertain some strong solidarity, okay? Then we get out there, and then we are now capable and now ready to fight the adversary, the invisible enemy that we all have to face, sometimes on a daily basis. And we're aware that it's not me, and it's not you, it's not him, and it's not her. The enemy are negative forces and those circumstances that we must overcome in order for us to live a better quality of life and a life that we can share with each other.